We're all clearly ready.
Yes, very clearly ready. Sorry, I had to kick my corgi out of the room, as you can imagine. Tears streaming down my face as I do so. Well, everybody, welcome to tomorrow for October 1st, 2023. So glad to have you all here. I'm Jared. We've also got Ryan joining
Wait,
us
wait. Jared's
today.
not
What?
quite centered in the screen, man.
Am I
What's going
not?
on with you?
What do you
No,
mean?
you're
It's
not.
just this is my
No.
new look up here with a multitude of things with that there. How's this for you, Duta?
Three
Is this a little bit
three
better?
thirds is not a rule. 3/3 is not a rule.
Oh, okay. So that's how we're gonna run this today. All right, I see how
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Jamie doesn't show up, and everything is all the
We
math is suddenly my fault.
yes, yeah, pretty much.
Oh, okay, fine. All right. Well, we're gonna we're gonna keep it going anyhow. So, as you all have noticed, that's Dutta right there, keeping us all in check for what we're supposed to be doing today. But we are going to go ahead and start off with you, Brian, because we have had a very busy week with SpaceX, as always, and always good to touch on them at the start. So, Ryan, what have we had from our dearest X this week?
Uh, they've put Big Ship on Big Booster again. Um, as you can see, it's kind of not. I wouldn't say confusing, but mildly unexpected. I think is probably the best way to put this because they don't have a launch license. The flight termination system hasn't been armed. So they're physically and regulatory wise both not ready to launch, despite what a certain CEO likes to say on his social media platform. So they're not ready to launch, but they're putting the ship back on the booster for a configuration which is, from the outside, looks like they're ready to launch, even though they're not. Hang on, they very smoothly go back. So it is kind of confusing to look at, but this could be an indication that SpaceX has actually decided that they want to do some full stack testing, such as a full stack wet dress rehearsal to prepare for launch, whilst they have to wait, I'll say, longer than expected for regulatory things to go through. Maybe SpaceX thought that they'd already have a launch license by now. Turns out that they don't, so they're like, oh, we've got extra time, we might as well do extra testing. Maybe that's just what they've decided to do at the end of the day. Yeah, nobody apart from SpaceX themselves really know what they're doing. But at least for now, we have a full stack that we can take pretty pictures of and share with everyone on the internet. So maybe full stack testing's on the way. But to make it even more confusing, there aren't any road closures indicating that a full stack test will be underway. We typically see overpressure notices as well to residents of the village, if that's something that they're wanting to do, because big oxygen and big methane put together uncontrollably would not be a good day. So there's no indications that they're going to do it, so it's just quite confusing.
Gotcha. So things are, I don't want to necessarily say in regulatory limbo, because we definitely know that the FAA and others are moving as fast as the mechanisms of bureaucracy can allow them to do so. Like, these are not groups that are out to get anybody, if you will. They're simply there to assure the safety of the public. But it is also like we got some extra stuff to do with them there. So it's a bit of a slog to get through all of that, but it is what they're working through. So yeah. So I guess in the meantime, might as well do what you can.
Yeah, and hopefully that's what we see, testing, because everyone likes a bit of testing. But as I said, there's no indications at the moment that they are going to be testing. And maybe they'll spring a surprise on us and close the road and issue an overpressure notice. But we haven't seen anything like that yet.
Yeah, Mr. Huggy is saying that all ready to go. Hopefully they do a few wet dress rehearsals while waiting, and I agree with that. It would be pretty good for them to do that. Kind of get all of the ducks in a row while they have all of this downtime. I'd say it would probably look a little bit silly if they had all
Yeah.
this downtime and then we come up to the launch and they end up finding a whole bunch of problems before the launch in the technical side. So hopefully they can, if they aren't already taking the time now to knock all of that out.
Yeah.
So Yeah. So, boy, it sounds like everybody's in agreement here. So tough crowd to work with today on the Tomorrow Show with that. So, also SpaceX with their Falcon 9s just continuing on as well, because let's not forget about the fact that SpaceX is a launch company. They're not just a build big test vehicle company. They're first and foremost a launch provider. So that's still going along. Falcon 9's chugging along there, and I'm hearing that that we're accelerating a little bit, so it's beginning to look like possibly 100 launches this year, maybe. Very, 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 very close to it.
I don't have the exact number in my head right now, but I do know for the month of September they did conduct 10 launches, which is a record for a single month. However, I'm not sure if, let's say they do 10 in October, 10 in November, and 10 in December, that's only, in air quotes, big air quotes, only 30 more launches. So they need to be at 70 launches by now if they want to hit 100 by the end of the year, if they stick at this current cadence. And I think they may just be shy of 70. So they could get close to 100 at this cadence, but I'm not sure if they will hit 100 precisely. I think they may be in the 60s somewhere potentially at the moment.
Well, we know they're definitely going to be setting a record for this year. So
they're setting a record. I think they've already surpassed their 2022 cadence. So the record has already been set. They just have a goal of 100, and they may or may not reach it. Currently, it looks like they probably won't.
Yeah, and I'm sure someone in the chat room will definitely be able to find a precise number for us, because that's just how our amazing chat room here at Tomorrow works. Also, Adam Baker letting us know that they have a new water tank as well on the ground with everything that needs to happen there. So there's also a lot of ground systems, ground support equipment, GSE that still needs to be tested for StarShip. Andy Law letting us know that they are just at 70 Falcon 9s. So, Ryan,
I've just found the numbers, and it's 70 launches in total, 66 Falcon 9, 3 Heavy, 1 Starship. So if they're sticking with Falcon 9 cadence, or just for Falcon 9, they have 69 launches for Falcon 9 and Heavy put together. So at the current rate of Falcon 9 and Heavy cadence, they would literally be one launch short of hitting 100 by the end of the year.
Yeah. Well, I will say, Adam has my favorite comment of the show so far, which is just 70.
Yeah, so, just 70.
Just 70.
From one provider.
Yeah.
From one provider.
I think it's even, there's often the case made that SpaceX is their own best customer with Starlink and other things like that. But I think even with commercial launches, they're still the reigning champions. So even if you were to just count non-Starlink launches, it's still
for non-Starlink launches, they've done 27 flights.
Yeah,
it wasn't 10 years ago where we were raving about having 80 launches in a year.
Yeah. And that was in 80 launches. And that was talking about the entire world, too. So
the entire in the entire world, everybody putting everything in the sky. 80 launches in 1 year.
Yeah,
that was less than 10 years ago, and SpaceX is doing good, targeting 100 this year.
Seeing 7 or 8 launches from the United States in a year was like amazing. Like, holy moly.
Yeah. Like, and at the moment, up to this point in 2023, the United States have, as a country, launched 85 orbital flights, 80 of which have been successful. But that includes test launches such as StarShip, Relativity. Also, it includes Electron launches, which actually launch out of Mahia in New Zealand. So, my opinion, even though they're a US company, it counts for New Zealand because it launches from New Zealand. But that's a whole other rabbit hole you can dive down and throw your opinions out about that. But yeah, China has launched 45 orbital attempts. 44 have been successful. So in terms of, if you discount Starlink launches, SpaceX is behind China. But if you include Starlink launches, because, in my opinion, they're completely valid, they're just their own customer, they are nearly twice, 2x ahead of China in terms of launches, which is just kind of, one private entity is beating an entire nation in terms of orbital capability.
Yeah, I was about to say, RVL has a great statistic here, which is that in 2012, the United States had 13 launches total.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we had more than 3/4 of that just in September, just from one launch provider. That was it. So I believe the United States had 11 total in September, because we had to include ULA's Atlas V Lofty and Silent Barker for that, if I'm remembering all of our stuff correctly. So yeah. So
and
wowee.
Duta, if you want to take my screen share quickly, I have a chart from the Wikipedia page for 2023 in spaceflight. That big blue bar in the middle is Falcon, and everyone else is everywhere else. So you can see in a mild second place is the Long March family out of China. You can also see poor Atlas here at the bottom with just one launch. So and the R7 family is the Soyuz family as well. So you can see just how far ahead the Falcon family is compared to everything else. And
is that India has launched more rockets than ULA has?
Yes.
Yes, by a significant margin. Japan, with its H series, has launched more than ULA has. And the Kuaizhou family, which is a private Chinese entity's rocket, has launched more than Atlas. Atlas has launched once so far this year. Delta has launched once so far this year. So ULA really
makes me sad.
This is not a great year for ULA in terms of launch cadence. They usually, I'd say on a good year, they'd hit 7, 8, 9, 10 launches. This year we're in October now, and they've launched twice.
This is like the sport. This is like the sports ball conversation. Is there in a rebuilding year? It's fine.
Yeah, kind of working around with that there.
Vulcan has been hogging Slick 41 for a little while in the earlier parts of the year whilst they were testing that. So let's be honest, they have been testing Vulcan. They just haven't launched it yet.
Yeah, it still appears to be one of those things where, boy, this, I don't want to say how the mighty have fallen, but just, oh boy, how the mighty have slowed down. But, I think with Vulcan, we'll see it pick back up with United Launch Alliance and cook along with that there. I can't imagine them fully slowing down to the point where it's like,
and
that's just not going to, one, that's ULA won't allow that to happen. Two, the U.S. government won't allow that to happen. So remember, two providers.
ULA doesn't have the luxury of having, a pad in Vandenberg for Falcon 9, 2 pads at the Cape for Falcon 9, and a dedicated development facility in Texas for StarShip, right? ULA has to share Slick 41 between Atlas V and Vulcan. So they don't have the luxury of having a dedicated launch facility just to test their rocket. So when they need testing on that rocket, it's going to be hogging up their only pad from the East Coast for Atlas.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's going to be a deal breaker for some of their contracts, where like they're going to have to secure another pad for one or the other of the rockets.
Yeah, and Bennett
for their readiness. I mean, they've got certain things in their contract that says that they need to be ready to launch payloads for DoD and things like that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and those are NSSL, National Security Space Launch contracts. So those are you hit those marks or you get into a little bit of trouble. I was going to say real quick in our chat room, Mike was saying, to call back to my comment from another episode, how many Falcon launches are not Starlinks. Just to remind you, we found that so far it was 27, I believe, is where we were at. With that, so 27 Falcon 9 launches that were just essentially for commercial or military providers this year. Anything that's not Starlink. So, of the 70 that we've had so far this year. And then to go back to Bennett's point, which is that is ULA going to speed up to their 10 per year cadence from before? Do we think that that's what's going to happen?
Jason says, to be fair, ULA for Atlas, they are waiting for their customers. For Vulcan, they have their fingers crossed on that Centaur test.
Yeah, so I think Vulcan cadence could potentially in the future rely on the ability to get the smart reuse section back, because if they only need to make a Centaur and essentially a fuel tank for the first stage, and then they can just stick the engines and whatnot on the bottom. If the BE4 production really is going to be a bottleneck, then smart reuse could be a way to bring up that launch cadence for Vulcan. But if the bottleneck then, I don't know, becomes manufacturing an entire Centaur second stage, then that could be the bottleneck. So I think Vulcan's cadence really relies on whatever bottlenecks the production, because it's not fully reasonable. They can't just bring the first stage back. If first stage construction is just meant to be, let's just build a fuel tank and stick the engine section on the bottom, maybe that could fly quite quickly. So it just really depends in the pipeline where a bottleneck would exist and if they can iron that out.
Yeah, and smart reuse I don't think would be on the table with them, because they have talked about smart reuse, but I find it very, I don't want to say near unbelievable, but I don't think I think they've talked quite a lot about it, and they've shown some very pretty charts and graphs and pictures, but I don't believe, outside of the inflatable decelerator test that just recently happened, I don't believe ULA specifically has done much of anything, if even anything, on that front with them there. So, yeah. So, and of course, I think that's a really good point with the Atlas V too, that they're waiting on customers as well, because Kuiper is going to be their big closeout customer, if you will, there, and we're still waiting to hear that with that there, and just some interest. Oh, how the turns have tabled over this past decade.
Yes.
If you've been,
and let's be fair to Kuiper, the Project Kuiper prototype is currently scheduled for Friday in the afternoon. So it is. I believe there's two test payloads on there. Obviously, they're not ready to fully ramp up into production, but they are getting there. That's kind of the whole story with ULA at the moment. They're getting there with Vulcan. Kuiper, they're getting there. It's just a bit of a slow roll to get them started, and hopefully these things will eventually pick up the pace as they gain more experience with Vulcan and payload start to come online. This is really the first push off the start line. Hopefully things will speed up over the next couple of years or so.
Yeah, and don't forget as well that they're going to have a second launch pad with Vulcan once Slick 3 out here at Vandenberg Space Force Base comes back online. Which it's almost been a year since they've started working on that to convert it over to Vulcan. So I wonder how much longer they have for that there. So, yeah. Yeah,
but there's limitations on which orbits you can hit, so that it doesn't explicitly double your cadence.
Oh, no, but I'm just saying, several more launches per year, perhaps, out of something there. I would imagine at this point, any increase in cadence is a good increase in cadence from 2 to 3 per year. So we'll have to see. So, yeah.
And I don't know whether ULA has any customers which would be interested in using the southern launch trajectory, which Starlink is famously using now out of Florida. Depends of the efficiency of Vulcan. But say if they have customers that want a 43-degree inclination, they can hit that out of Florida or Vandenberg and Vandenberg. So those crossover inclinations, depending how popular they are for, say, big internet satellite constellations, maybe that could offer a bit of flexibility there, because Vandenberg and Florida can both hit that.
Yeah, that's definitely happening now, and I can tell you those of us here in Southern California appreciate those 43-degree inclination launches. They're pretty spectacular to see quite all the time. I like Bennett here saying it depends on how many moonrakers you need in order to pull this off. So that's a really good point, Bennett. Didn't even think about that with that there. So so pretty funny with that. So good one there, Bennett. Appreciate it. And I did want to talk a little bit about another launch provider today, which was RocketLab, and they had a failure of their Electron rocket in its it's just its last launch, which didn't happen too long after our previous episode. Ryan, do you have any details about that? Have we heard anything new about that besides something with the upper stage?
I imagine we won't really hear anything until well into their investigation processes. If we think back to, I think it was NS-23, Blue Origin's failure last year, where the first stage decided it no longer wanted to be a first stage. That whole kind of investigative process has taken quite a long time to go through. It is a human-rated vehicle. It is a suborbital vehicle, so there are different factors to take into account. However, I think it was back in March of this year, they released a document on their website, which is their findings from that, so they're being quite open and transparent with that. But the actual investigation process only wrapped up a couple of weeks ago. The FAA mishap report only wrapped up a couple of weeks ago. So even if the company comes out and says this is what went wrong, they're not going to be ready to launch again. So that whole process takes quite a long time to go through. StarShip's mishap report, that only took a few weeks/months, depending how you want to look at it. So potentially this could be a quick process for RocketLab. But until that actually wraps up, I don't think we'll hear anything. They've only really been tweeting about kind of the things that they've been doing that isn't launching satellites and looking back on the Electron's history and things like that. There hasn't been any kind of like, this is what went wrong, this is how we're going to fix it kind of statement yet, because that's not what you would expect this close to a mishap happening on a launch. And before the questions come in, even though this launched from New Zealand, because RocketLab is a US company, they are licensed by the FAA. It is the FAA's job to do this mishap report. So it's the same process we can expect with all other US launch providers.
Yep.
I think I had seen that they said they were closing in on a root cause, but they weren't ready to say anything about it.
And I mean, that's what you'd expect.
Yeah, usually it's a couple months to kind of knock down the problem, unless it's a very, very obvious problem with it there. So we'll have to see what ends up happening with them. But best of luck, of course, to RocketLab and Blue Origin as well, with both of them working together on that. And yeah, Blue Origin coming to the conclusion of that with the FAA. Now it's just up to them to implement all those things. Sounds a little familiar, doesn't it? With another company that may have blue in its logo. So yeah, there's with that there. Yeah, that's pretty interesting that we've got two of them happening at the same time. Kind of, I don't want to say crisscrossing, but it feels just like, Blue Origin's working on it, or Blue Origin working on it, and also RocketLab working on it as well with that there. So, yeah, so good luck to both of them. We'll have to see with that. And Aravail saying that it sounds like Blue will be doing another uncrewed launch in the next few weeks. And yeah, they're definitely not going to put a crew on for the first couple of flights back from that there. You want to get all the data and make sure everything looks good and work
and
with that.
They also owe their customers for the flight that went wrong a flight, because they didn't get what they paid for. So I think the most realistic situation, I don't know this for certain, but what I think Blue Origin would do is just take the capsule that flew NS-23 and fly it on NS-24, if that's what they end up calling it, with a new booster, so the customers can actually get the data that they were looking for.
Yeah, and that's part of the deal with it there. You got to make sure that you provide what you have said you would provide to your customers, and Blue Origin's going to do that. So free rides, everybody. So does that mean if there's a crewed flight and they have that, that the crew gets to fly again? Or how does that work? Would I want to fly again? I don't know. I guess... yeah, actually, I was about to say Aerospike in the comments, putting it out there, which is, some of us would ride New Shepard because it might fail. So that's a really good
You wanted to light the booster.
That's true. Wasn't it Blue Origin that said that they had actually had customers that had asked them if they could light the booster, the escape booster at apogee, so that way they could get a little extra kick with it there. So I would ask for that. How much is that option? How much is that option? 2, 3
Blue Origin,
million?
Blue Origin has
Drop it.
specifically had to say that is not a selectable flight option because of people have legitimately requested that. So they've had to officially say this is not something we are offering.
I'm that guy.
Unless stage 1 fails on the way up, you don't get that.
You need someone. You need the ULA sniper to intentionally sabotage the first stage right at the end of its flight, and then the capsule, will abort.
Clearly, that's exactly what it was. I read it on Twitter. So Aravel, I like Aravel's little slogan for our idea here, which is buy one get one half apogee. So pretty good with that. And speaking of launches, because we want to keep this on rolling. Toon Vanderpass in our chat room is asking, Ryan, are you still going to attend the Psyche launch, or have your plans changed? As in case you didn't hear, Psyche is going to launch this month in October, finally, after a year of delays, or a literal year of delays.
Yeah.
And then
More than a year.
Actually, yeah, excuse me, a little bit, definitely more than a year. And now they've already had to push it a week because of spacecraft issues. So, yeah. Ryan, what's up with that? What's up with you? Because you had a little fundraiser to make that happen.
Yeah,
are we still go?
Yeah, I'm still going. I had to move everything. I'm still waiting for budget to give me my money back for the car hire. But yeah, I'm still going.
For the car hire, okay. I like how you phrased that. That is definitely, I suppose.
That's an English phraseology.
Oh yes, aware of that. So it was just I've never heard it used before, so that was pretty. It was pretty entertaining to say the least. And then our brain was like, that does make a lot more sense to call it that. So still coming over to cover it?
I'll be there.
Okay. So are you like feeling any way about it with it being delayed again, or like how are we doing? Are we ventilating into a bag, or?
It's mildly annoying. 1 week is certainly much better than a year, I do have to say. But it's a launch. You expect this. It's not going to happen on this time at this date, and you can predict it 12 years in the future. Like, I don't know, a solar eclipse. A launch happens when a launch happens. Think it scrubs. These things happen. There's no other way of putting it. It was expected, and I planned around that for that exact reason.
Yeah, and I was going to say, scrubs and pushes and delays are very much a part of aerospace. Welcome to the right, or welcome watching your schedule move to the right. That's kind of just how it goes, and ourself and Duta, you have. We both have been on the receiving end of scrubs with it. Bennett saying you still. I can't read. Is that saying? Oh, you're still. I'm sorry. You're still pretty psyched up about it. Psyched up about it. So very, very good. Also, Aravel said that don't sound so excited, Ryan. So don't Ryan, calm down. Don't blow up.
I've got to be careful with my levels. We were checking the pre-show. My levels were through the roof. I had to turn them down. Good lord. Also, Aerospike reminding us that the window does extend 2 weeks past the current launch date for Psyche. So don't forget that, right? Mm-hmm. Welcome to the wonderful world of physics. With that there.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like to go to England in October for a launch in January or anything.
Yeah, I'm sure, Duta, you've got zero stories about something like that, right?
No.
Yeah, nobody would know anything about having to wait months for a launch in a different country than you live in. So, except for maybe one guy over here that I can see that maybe we can talk about. Oh yeah, Andy Law, too soon. So, I guess it's too soon, right?
Hey, my stuff worked.
It's true, it did work. It did. So Ryan, coming on over. What else? You've got to be doing something other than just covering Psyche. What else are you going to be doing?
Well, conveniently, there's an annular solar eclipse happening on the 14th, which, unlike a rocket launch, can't scrub. So I've got my solar filter, I've got my zoom lens. I'm going to be doing. Fingers crossed, it's not cloudy, because knowing my luck, I'll bring the clouds with me. But I'm hoping to be able to see that properly, which would be quite cool.
Yeah, so it'll be partial where you're at, but and I'm not going to go to the path of annularity for this one, but yeah, you could probably catch me at Griffith or something that day, helping the public watch it. But don't forget, on April 8th, we are going to have one, April 8th, 2024. We're having a total solar eclipse rolling through the middle of the United States. That one, I will be there for that. I am not going to be missing that.
I'm still considering popping over for the day to see it. I'm not sure, because I was looking on timeanddate.com, and the prediction, the diagrams they give you for how it will look, there's a teeny little smidge that's meant to be visible from the western edge of the UK. So I'm contemplating either popping over to the US for the weekend to see the eclipse, or going back down to Cornwall and or maybe even hopping over to Ireland and just trying to bet my chances to see even if there's a glimpse of an eclipse from Western Europe, which would be, obviously not as spectacular as a total solar eclipse, but also kind of interesting to see. Just a little smidge on the end, and not having to, get an 8-hour flight to Texas or something.
Well, if I highly recommend, and this goes for everybody that's watching, if you can find yourself in the path of totality of a total solar eclipse, you need to get to it, because it is an experience that I cannot describe to you, and I had a multitude of coworkers say, I can't describe that experience to you, you've just got to go experience it. And I was like, what are you talking about? You should be able to explain this to me. And I really, again, boy, were they all spot on. I just, having gone to the one in 2017, I just can't explain the whole experience to you. You see stuff, you feel stuff, you hear stuff. There's the changes in the weather and the view, and just the enormity of it all is just, you gotta go to it to take it in. So yeah, that's why I'm going back to Texas to get another 4.5 minutes to add to my in the shadow of the moon time that I've already experienced in my life so far. My 2 minutes 1 second I've already had. I need more there. It's I totally understand why people spend the rest of their lives chasing these events and things. Yeah, Jared, eclipse, hard, yes, it was amazing. Yeah, very few words. Big, spectacular, amazing. Go see it. Go see it if you can. With that thing. Okay, and I was going to say, Nick Chair actually says the last total visible eclipse in the UK was 1999, which is probably before you were born, Ryan.
It was. I think we had a partial last year, either early this year or late last year. I can't remember now. I do remember that.
It was relatively recent with that there. Yeah. Jan saying a total eclipse is indeed nothing that you can explain. Mine was 1999, I think, in the English Channel. And yeah, again, it really does seem so cliched for anyone to say, I can't explain it to you. You just have to go. You just have to go experience it. But no, really, I could try to explain it to you, but just the magnitude of it, it's just, I can't explain it. You just go. Just go. Go! If the path of totality is within a reasonable amount of distance, and you're not going to the center of it and figuring out where to go in case of weather, there's something wrong with you as a person, and I don't think we will get along with that there. Let's talk a little bit about Stoke Space. So, because they did something really cool, and it seems like the extremely very cool things always happen after our episodes are wrapped up, right? So, this came out just a few hours after our episode wrapped up. So, and what happened? Who wants to explain what happened?
I can try,
because I could do it too if need be. So
this is the little
you give
gumdrop
it a go.
aerospike, right?
What's up?
This is the little aerospike gumdrop.
Yes, or I love that name for it. An aerospike gumdrop. Duta.
You're right.
That is delightful. I quite like that. Aerospike gumdrop. So, there's a lot of people forget you can, it's a good shape with that there. But Stoke Space, they are a small spaceflight company that is working on developing a fully reusable launcher. So, which is really, really awesome, right? Because that's what you need to do nowadays, either full reusability or your company's not going to make it. But why don't I go ahead and pull up the video of it? They showed us it doing a hop, and that's a really cool thing, right? Because we haven't seen a vehicle do a hop in a very, very long time. See, is this my screen, or did somebody have it?
That's Ryan's screen.
I'm pulling it up. Yep. And look at that shot. It's so amazing. I love it. It looks so beautiful. But if we'd like to see it in motion, I'm going to go ahead and pull it up here on my screen. Get what I got with it. Okay, now we should have it. All right. Everybody ready?
Yep, ready to go.
Here we go. All right, get up. Come on. Light. And it's away.
That's pretty cool.
It was a bit of a bumpy landing, though, I will say. Not perfectly smooth, but
Yeah.
any landing you can walk away from is a good landing, apparently, even though it can't walk. But apparently it still counts.
Yes, it does. It indeed does count with that there. So, so that was great. We got to actually see the vehicle in action. How great is that? Like, that's so cool. And I was just wondering, have we seen a photo with somebody right by that? Have we ever seen?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think it's meant to be 7 meters in diameter, or 7 meters tall. It's one of the two. Probably 7 meters tall and slightly smaller in diameter, because the rocket itself isn't that tall. It's quite a stubby rocket. I think it's shorter than Falcon 9 by a bit. I think it's probably Neutron kind of scale, but it is, unlike Neutron, it is intended to be fully reusable, bring the first stage back like Falcon and then bring the second stage back like a Starship, except not really like a Starship, more like a capsule. It's essentially a big capsule with an aero spike on the bottom that is also a regeneratively cooled heat shield, which is just kind of, sticking 3 epic things together in one. Reusable aero spike with a regeneratively cooled heat shield. That is the aero spike. It's just, I think it's probably one of the most, if not the most efficient kind of combine everything together design that there is, because you get an engine, you get a heat shield, and you get an aerodynamically stable vehicle with one design.
Yeah, and by the way, just to let you know, the hopper that they have there is a dedicated hopper vehicle. It is about the size of the second stage of Stoke's launch vehicle. Doesn't have the payload fairing on it. Very important thing to note there. But 4 meters in diameter, 6 meters tall. So Ryan, you're right on it with it there. So excellent with that.
Yeah, it'll probably be 7 or 8 meters with the whole shebang on top of it as well. And
yeah, once the fairing gets put on there, you're gonna need to have a bigger fairing on that there, so it'll get huge. It will get large in size, and yeah, very, very exciting to see that. And as many of you were noting, in the chat room is that they use differential thrust as their thrust vector control system with that there.
Yeah.
And
This
who
is,
wants to, oh yeah, go for it, Ryan.
I'll take it. This is in my opinion, I want to say this without sounding really mean, but I hope they don't fly humans on this vehicle, or they don't have any goals to fly humans with differential thrust for instead of engine gimbaling, because famously the N1 rocket from the Soviet Union used differential thrust instead of engine gimbaling on the first stage. And their solution was, in order to counteract the loss of an engine on one side to stop the vehicle from tipping over, they'd have to shut down another engine on the other side. So if you lost one engine, you'd lose two, and that had about 30 engines in total. And they could only lose, I think, 6 or 8 engines. So that means if you lose 3 engines, you're toast, because you have to shut down the opposite engine. Now, that was on the first stage. Stoke are using this system on the second stage, so maybe that will make this more reliable. Maybe they won't have to shut down the opposite engine if they lose one for stability or whatnot. But I do find it interesting that they have gone down this route, especially with their aerospike, instead of trying to figure out some kind of alternative method in order to introduce the ability to steer the exhaust. Because my opinion is that if they do have to do that opposite shutdown thing, this could become a very, not dangerous, but potentially difficult vehicle to control if you lose a certain number of combustion chambers, because it's actually just one engine, but it has separate nozzles all around the outside. So it's a very unique design, but it just depends if it's reliable or not.
Yeah, and Aerospike was kind of bringing up that reliability issue, which that it's one engine to feed all those nozzles, which we talked about. Jason actually has a really good... Oh, go ahead, Duta.
I've pulled up a couple pictures real quick of what it looks like.
Okay.
Compared to humans near scale.
Yeah, that's pretty good size, I gotta say. I like Jason's description here is actually really well, which is that Stoke's approach is more akin to the RD-180, so the engine flying on the Atlas V, where you've got a single combustion chamber with multiple nozzles with that there, right? That's what we're talking about. And then also here from Aravale, which I think is a very important way to differentiate between the N1 and now, which is that our computers and engine validation options are a lot better than the N1 days, though. So I think that things like differential thrust are reasonable for something like Stoke, because we can actually pull it off. You know, it's been about 50 years, and we've gotten a little bit better at rockets and computers to control those rockets. At least I would hope we have. But TSM Space does bring up a really good point, which is that there's a lot of stabilization that needs to be used with these valves and things. You got to hold the valves open to the right positions. It would be I don't know if I would describe it with that kind of complexity as complex as a walking robot, but it is absolutely a significantly more complex system than most rocket engines because of what you have there. So holy moly, that's still really cool. I love what Stoke has been able to do with that, and how rapidly they've been able to do it too. I think it was just a year and a half ago when they came up on the scene, and already they've got a hopper going. So
yeah, and the company was founded by 2 people who left Blue Origin because I think this is correct, because they thought that Blue Origin was moving too slowly. So, ironically, Blue has yet to fly any tests of their orbital vehicle, New Glenn, and Stoke already has. But to be fair to Blue, New Glenn is on a completely different scale to what Stoke's Stoke's currently unnamed vehicle is.
Yeah. Holy smokes. Like, just, that's really, really rapid. And then, of course, mad props to the Aerospike, going down with it there. Always love us. I love us an Aerospike engine, baby. I mean, that is, I want an aerospike so bad, and it always breaks my heart when I see Tim's video that says, "Oh, aerospike engine's good or bad," and it's just like, no, Tim, not again. I can't do this with you. So super excited to see that with them there. All right, anybody got anything else before I talk about some asteroids coming back?
Well, I think we should let you get on with your astrology.
You want me to talk about? It's not astrology, not this week. This is local. This is planetary science, which is different. So, it's planetary science, which is different from astronomy. So, which your shirt there, Ryan, I'd like to point out, talking about Pluto. A whole bunch of astronomers voted for Pluto to no longer be a planet. Not a whole bunch of planetary scientists did it. As the great Dr. Alan Stern, who's the principal investigator on the New Horizons mission to Pluto, once told me, having a bunch of astronomers decide what kind of object Pluto is like going to a podiatrist for your brain cancer. Anyways. He's got away with words. What's up?
Sounds like fighting words right there.
Well, I tell you anything, Dr. Stern, thank you so much for your for your really great ones. And then, of course, I do want to talk about this super awesome thing that happened last Sunday, which was we had some samples drop off. Finally, there we go. There's our samples being dropped off at the Dungway Proving Ground, out in Utah from the OSIRIS-REx mission. So 7 years in the making for this. Launching with one of my favorite configurations of rockets, the Atlas V and the 411 configuration. So we had a single solid, so it did the power slide off of the launch pad there, and as you can see, good parachute coming down, and we actually do have those samples back. And yes, the samples from asteroid Bennu, which it was expected to maybe get like 60 grams or so. We've got almost I believe several hundred grams of materials from it there. So it overwhelmed the sample container. I'm going to kind of skip ahead on the video here a little bit with it as they hunted down. And of course, very happy to get those samples back. These are the first samples the United States has returned of an asteroid from space. Not the first country to do it. That would be Japan. Japan's actually done it with both Hayabusa 1 and Hayabusa 2. So very cool missions that we've had that with there. So awesome. And OSIRIS-REx, the main spacecraft, is still out in space, and it's now turned into the OSIRIS-APEX mission, which is going to rendezvous with asteroid Apophis, coming up towards the end of the 2020s. And if you've ever heard of asteroid Apophis before, that's because it is well known for being an asteroid that was first thought that was actually going to hit the Earth. But then after some more observations that we did of it, we were able to figure out, it's actually not going to be hitting the Earth at all. So, which is good. We don't want things to hit the Earth. And this is why we study these kinds of things as well, because we want to know what it's like, if we have to work with that. So, yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. That's what we got. So, really cool to get those samples back. Once the pictures start rolling out in mass, I'll grab some, and hopefully next week I could show you some very cool things. So,
Adam Baker asks, did the drogue open?
Yes, the drogue did open. So, as far as I know, it did. It went through all that it should have. It's just that the capsule's not very big. Capsule's like, how big was it? Maybe like a meter and a half, roughly, something like that. So, yeah, not very big. As far as I saw, it did. It's just that it's very, very small. So it's really small, and you didn't see it from far away. So, yeah.
Aravel said, I assume someone has done the math and confirmed that booping Apophis won't put it back on course for Earth.
Oh, well, we're not going to... So OSIRIS-REx you can't sample anymore. It's kind of done with that. So, yeah, it can't boop anymore. any
It's
more
just going
space
for
rocks.
observation or whatnot and things.
Yes, and it's going to arrive in time for Apophis to do its very close pass of the Earth in 2029. So I'm actually really excited about that, because I hope that they get a really great image of Osiris, or of Apophis and the Earth in the same frame. I think that would be like stunningly amazing with that there. So that would be cool.
Look but don't boop.
Yes, exactly. Look, but don't boop. So yeah, I thought I saw another question, like a serious question, with that there.
Jason
Oh yeah.
says, theoretical question: would it be possible to provide OSIRIS-REx with a new container to boop Apophis, or is it technically impossible?
Well, nothing's impossible. It's just depending upon how much money you got. So
I think that probably would have had to have already launched.
yes, yeah, that would have had to have launched and rendezvoused with OSIRIS-REx to pull that off. Unfortunately, so yes, but I mean, nothing says that we can't we can't get a new mission ready to go. It's just that you got to run through the process of everything with it. So yeah. I think, unfortunately, though, if anything, the reports from this previous week, if anything to go, it is no longer the James Webb Space Telescope eating the budget. It's now Mars Sample Return that's deciding to feast upon NASA's budget. So, oh boy, here we go again, with a with a project having its schedule and its budget run out of control. So, did we forget how to do that? So, I don't know. So. But anyways,
well, the government forgot how to budget anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I was gonna say we came pretty close to having a shutdown of NASA, along with the federal government here in the United States.
Our annual tradition of shutting down the government.
Yeah, or nearly shutting it down, should we say? But yeah, we came pretty close to it. NASA there would have been a lot of NASA that would have shuttered, but I also do know that Psyche was declared a exception to that, and the work on that would have continued as was planned, because unfortunately, launch windows don't care what's going on here on Earth. So
Yeah.
turns out.
Physics doesn't care what's going on inside of the Capitol, so physics will do what physics wants to do.
Yep, that's very, very true. So that's so it goes. That's the way it is for us. All right. So anyone else got anything with that there? Because that's it for me for this week. So, and if that's it for us, we can always go into thanking our folks who help make the shows of tomorrow possible. We are so thankful for all of your support, you amazing folks. And if you would like to help become a Tomorrow member and support us here, you could go over to youtube.com/TMRO/join, which means that you get to join us for our members only show, which I'm not going to be at, unfortunately, for much today. But you get to join us where we kind of loosen up a little bit and talk about some funnier stuff and kind of work for that there, and we'll have a good time. For those of you that we're going to catch the Cursed Narrow Stream, thank you for being our Tomorrow Model 33 Plaid Pro Plus Edition member. And once again, just to remind you, if you'd like to become a member of us here on Tomorrow, you can get those pretty cool things like going to the member stream right now. Consider becoming one. Go to youtube.com/TMRO/join. It's literally as little as 99 cents a month, not even a quarter of a cup of coffee. That's how that works. All right. That's it for me. I'm Jared. That's also Ryan. That's also Duta. You guys are over there this whole week. I didn't even know where you were this week until the end of the show. That's it for us. Thank you all so much. We'll be seeing you next week if you're going to be joining us. Laters.